FA set to punish clubs and players for racism offences, from bbc.co.uk. Football Association Chairman David Bernstein says a specific sanction for players found guilty of racist abuse is close and will be introduced soon. The FA board has approved a plan to counter discrimination within football, and discussions are being held over a minimum game ban for players. I think we're getting close to that, making a decision, said Bernstein. That's under active discussion now. This is a live issue and you will see it in the not too distant future. Bernstein, who will step down as FA chairman in July 2013, also revealed that he had spoken to players, including Rio and Anton Ferdinand, on the issue. I've taken it upon myself over the past month to meet with people from the black and ethnic community. I've met with Rio and Anton Ferdinand, Jason Roberts, Clark Carlisle, Garth Crooks, and a number of others, and taken on board the comments and observations and concerns that they had, which are reflected in the papers that we've put out today. His comments came after Lord Ousley of the anti-racism campaign Kick It Out complained that the football authorities had not shown sufficient leadership. The interesting thing with this, the FA bringing out fixed fine, looking to bring out fixed fines is an interesting one. And for me, once again, the FA are a day late and a dollar short. This should have been done years ago. This should have been done years ago in terms of bringing out, if you racially abuse someone, put it in a contract that it's a potential sackable offence. And Gezzie Fizzle was just asked, as just said, the uniform ban for race-related incidents in the UK needed to be in place already. Yeah, exactly. And also, why was there a discrepancy in the ban for Terry and Suarez? Guys, you've heard me ask that question on so many occasions. You've heard me ask that before. The fact of the matter is, like I say on a regular occasion, castigate uniformly and castigate in a draconian fashion. It's the only way you're going to start to eliminate things. And I've had to say that saying way more than I feel comfortable with. I've had to say it too much. And Gezzie has said then the same thing with the financial aspect. Bans should be uniform. But G-Man, I know you come from a slightly different side of the street in terms of that argument, don't you? In terms of uniform bans and uniform punishments. Because I remember a few shows ago you had a different kind of angle on it.
Well, my angle is that each incident is always different. So like you look at each incident from a different perspective and a different set of eyes, because it's like racism is racism. Yeah. And it's a disgrace any way you slice it, but yeah. But like I said, you can get racism in the stands, you can get racism on the pitch, you can get racism behind closed doors, like in the changing rooms, so many different. Institutionally, yeah. And like in terms of what you're saying about them tackling it with, having certain rules in contracts, now that makes sense. Uniformly, that makes sense. That works. But when it comes to monetary, like money fines or monetary fines, it's a bit harder. It's a bit harder to assess, because how do you assess how much you fine one club and how much you fine another club?
Well, it's a case of just make that blanket fine huge.
But it's just to me when you do that, it's like it's not really tackling the problem.
Well, it's some sort of a deterrent.
Like sacking someone is tackling that problem. Because if we, like me and you at work, if we were to do something, just say, do the same sort of, like, if we were to be racist at work, it would result in
done boogie,
gone.
Yeah,
That just makes common sense. Gezzie Fizzle and yourself are right just a minute ago. That should have been in place ages ago. That shouldn't have been. But when it comes to money, it's just like, how do you assess it? It's like, you can fine someone £1 million, but if you're Man United, that's peanuts. But if you're Swansea, that might be a bit more. And if you're Pompey, that's your life over.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, to a certain extent, you do have to be responsible for the conduct of your players. To a certain extent, I say, because there's only, I mean, it is a difficult one. I understand that, and in terms of being responsible for the conduct of your players, it's a case of, actually, no, you know what? I can't even really say that, because Suarez not shaking Evra's hand, we didn't know about that. Liverpool didn't know about that. So I can kind of see that angle in terms of, you got to sack the player rather than punishing the team. But at the same time, when it's something like the Serbia-England thing, and it's a lot of the team's fans, then you do have to punish the team to show the fans that it's not going to be tolerated. And playing games behind closed doors is one way of tackling the problem. Very much one way. But the monetary fines don't go far enough. To be honest, there has to be blanket bans and uniform monetary fines of some description to at least act as a deterrent. At the very least. That's the way I see it. So, I mean, Gezzie Fizzle, you wanted to jump in as well, didn't you?
I did, and at first I disagreed with the Gman when he was saying about, actually the punishments have to be reviewed individually, because each case in of itself is individual, so you have to look at it separate from everything else, so on and so forth. Yeah. And I took myself out of the situation for a minute, and then I thought to myself, actually, he does have a point.
Yeah, very much.
And it is valid, but the point where it falls down for me is the bit where all that it would take is for one of the people who was punished, shall we say, far more severely, to just make a complaint, right? Now, I'm going to propose this scenario to kind of highlight my point. John Terry, he got what, like a 4-game ban?
Yeah.
Right? Whereas Suarez was what, 8 games or something?
Yeah. And his monetary fine was higher, but the amount of games that he got banned for was less, which was a huge discrepancy.
So for me, all it would take is for Luis Suarez to say, "What, couldn't I have paid more money and served less games?"
Yeah, and there's always the appeals process as well.
Well, this is it. I'm like, that's all he has to necessarily go and do in front of appeals. Just say, look, I was hard done by. I've lost 4 games of my Liverpool career, when all I really had to do is go and pay more money. Because look, because blatantly now, right? Then you've got the other issue of race, because he's going to say, what, is it because I'm Uruguayan?
Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of people beat that drum. And at the end of the day, hey, I was beating the drum that it should have been worse for Terry because he's English born and bred.
Same here. Exactly the same here. But I'll go back to my point of also saying that, I do think uniform punishments are the way to go. And my uniform punishment theory is as follows. So I want this thrown out to Facebook and Twitter, and I want everybody to get back at me in that regard as well, and on Google Plus if you're there as well. Yeah. And my suggestion is this: you go and you ban the teams. You ban the teams.
Yeah.
And you ban the teams is you go and say, right, okay, listen, we're going to have to name and shame you because we have evidence first and foremost, and then you're not going to play in, international competition, for example, because of this. So if it goes on and the ban is, I don't know, say 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is, as well as the public name and shaming, then I think after that, more teams will begin to actually say, turn around to the fans as well and say, look, you kind of need to wind your neck in, because unless you do, we're not going to be on an international stage.
Well, it's like the whole thing with Porto. I mean, Porto getting off with some paltry fine, and then Bentner ends up getting more for showing his briefs. It's like what the hell is this? So I can show my pants and get fined more for more than for our fans racially abusing someone. What in the blue hell was that? So it's like, that's the thing. That's the screwed thing about it. A lot of the authorities, the footballing authorities, are a day late and a dollar short generally. And that's the worrying thing. Yeah, they're coming out now, but as we've been saying, it should have been years ago. But, I mean, Umbrian Ali, you brought up something quite interesting in the chat, and that is actually a good point. We're going to come back to that in a second, because this is something that kind of relates to it. Danilo faces a year in jail for racist abuse. Udinese defender Danilo has been sentenced to a year in jail for racist abuse after a trial in Brazil. And that's from Thursday, 10th, 2013. The 28-year-old was caught on cameras when playing for Palmeiras in 2010, calling Atletico Paranaense opponent Manuel a monkey in his native Portuguese tongue, as well as spitting in the player's face. Manuel himself reported the incident to local police following the match, and Danilo had subsequently admitted the incidents in public. So it's one of them, Danilo, who joined Udinese in 2011, is hopeful the sentence will be reduced on appeal to a £100,000 fine, and he will be able to return to Italy. Such a fine would be equivalent to 500 times the minimum wage. Danilo earns around 326 grand a year, but that salary could rocket if rumours of a January move to Juventus turn out to be true. So for me, all right, uniform punishments. I mean, that punishment, to me, is going a step too far. Putting the dude in, all right, by all means arrest him, but putting someone in jail for calling someone a monkey and spitting on him, to me, that's a bit of political correctness gone mad. It's going a bit too far.
Well, spitting on him is assault, technically.
Is it?
Technically, it's assault.
Because I was thinking that, but then it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I'd rather someone spit on me than beat the crap out of me. But then again, both are about as offensive as each other. And especially if racially motivated, even more so.
And I think that's more than likely where the angle's coming from.
But,
there,
yeah.
From a legal perspective, it's a potential racial hate crime.
Yeah.
I think that's the angle that they've taken to go and put him in prison. And if that's what they're using, I really can't say they're too far wrong. And I tell you what, that also means in Brazil, it's going to be a deterrent for professional footballers who think that they're bigger and better than everybody else in Brazil.
Yeah.
And, to actually say, well, look, if you do this, we're going to treat you just like how we would treat an ordinary citizen, and you will go to prison.
But then the discrepancy that I have is that in South America, I think there was a story that we brought up on the show. Remember that? Do you guys remember that ref that got beaten up? And I can't remember what punishment was meted out to him, to the guy who was assaulting. But at the end of the day, I don't think he served jail time for it. So you could pretty much beat the crap out of a referee and not get jail time for it. Which, this is where the discrepancy comes in. So,
well, I think after that, in terms of legal process, like the referee would have to take it to court, blah blah blah, for that to go and kind of gain any traction. And obviously, we don't know if that's what happened afterwards. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that itself is a different process altogether. But I still think that, okay, while a lot of people will see it as being excessive that he went to prison, you know what? Honestly, I think it's a step forward. I think it's a step forward. Now, imagine if, for example, both Luis Suarez and John Terry were faced with jail time.
Yeah, which John Terry, it ended up escalating to a public order offence. So there was the initial rumours about jail time, potentially.
And if they did go to jail, I tell you what, it would have changed a lot of other footballers' perceptions.
But then
I think that's where the punishment for Danilo is effective.
But then there's the whole PC brigade thing. It's a case of you can call someone something. All right, yeah, he spat on him as well. But it's one of them was you can call something and run the risk of going to jail. I mean, the jails over here are full enough as it is. I'm Brian Alley. Hello, by the way, and welcome back. We haven't heard from you in a bit. Hope you've been well, by the way. But your view in the Skype chat. We'd like to, if you can, if you've got your mic on, would you like to articulate what you said in the Skype chat? Because that's quite an interesting one.
Yeah, I was just saying, I agree exactly with what you're saying, that there needs to be kind of a set punitive method, whether it's in the form of team punishment or whether it's in the form of a monetary kind of deduction or going to court or whatever it is. There needs to be something instilled, absolutely. But my point is that essentially, no matter what punishment is kind of determined, that's actually not going to change the mindset of the person who has racist beliefs or is prejudiced. You can't force someone not to be prejudiced. That's something that's got to change from within. And it's like the thought police in 1984, George Orwell's book. They had the thought police. They could tell who was, against the state, and they had them punished. But we need to, I don't know, how do you change the mindset of someone who, in this day and age, still holds such prevalent racist or prejudiced views?
No, that's actually a great point. That is actually a great point in terms of changing mindsets, which I guess is where I think it's the PFA's 5-point plan in terms of cultural lessons kind of comes into play. And,
see, now that was going to be my next point.
Yeah,
what about?
And we did mention it.
Punishment.
Yeah, I mean, we did mention that on Pitch Talk Meets Manisha Taylor, which we'll be putting out a lot more info about that soon. But it's a deterrent. I mean, a deterrent is a start, and that's the thing. So, I mean, for me, that's where it's got to be. I mean, you've got to at least have a deterrent at first, and then you can build off that. So that's the way I would see it. I mean, Mike Harniman, you've had a couple of interesting views in the Skype chat as well. What do you reckon?
What I was saying, the last part is the main part. I think basically what you've got to do is you've got to see where you can change their mindset to stop them from being involved in the game anyway, if they're actually found guilty from, like racist abuse or anything like that.
No, that's a good point. No, that actually is a good point. And at the end of the day, yeah, I said it's a deterrent, and the deterrent is a start. You ban these people from the game, just like the football hooligans. Take away their passports when the international tournament comes. They can't leave the country, so they can't go over and cause trouble. It's a deterrent, at the very least.